You want this? All right, listen close, because this is one of those small-town messes that looks funny until it isn't, and it starts with a clipboard and a threat, which is about as dramatic as Tuesday mornings get around here. I was standing on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the mist lift off the pond. Quiet, normal, the kind of morning my uncle used to call church without the sermon. When Becca pulls up, grin wider than her hood, and shouts, "Welcome back, landlord." I waved a hand like, "Hey, I just got here, box is still in the truck," and she says, "Oh, you'll see." Like she'd already read the script. Before I can laugh, a voice cuts the morning open. "Get off this land right now." I turn, and there she is, Vivian Hale, clipboard held like a coronation crown, blazer starched, jaw set like she's drilling recruits. Behind her roll 2 SUVs and half a dozen folks in neon vests like they're extras in a bad movie about authority. She storms up my drive as if the dirt was her marble foyer. "You don't belong here," she snaps, waving that clipboard like a badge. I nearly spit out my coffee. My deeds in my pocket, taxes paid, name on the record, and this woman is standing in my driveway telling me to leave. She calls it a compliance inspection. Her volunteers unfurl yellow tape, set out cones, the whole suburban crime scene aesthetic. The head guy, big talk, little badge, barked into a handheld radio like he'd read a lot of police procedurals. "You're the tenants," I tell her, pointing across the drive where Becca is leaning on her truck, smirking. "I'm the landlord." She bristles, mentions HOA jurisdiction, threatens escalation, and tries to block my phone when I start recording. It's ridiculous. Clipboards and reflective vests don't make you a law enforcement agency. But there's a smell of theater in the air, and I'm allergic to being written out of my own story. They set up a crooked blockade to stop my moving truck. The driver rolls up, forehead sweat, muttering about overtime and the price of being in someone else's reality show. I tell him, "Nudge the cones." He does, careful, like he's moving a sleeping dog. Vivian lunges forward, voice thin and sharp, but I stand between her and the truck. "You're trespassing," I say. "You're interfering with my property." She hisses a warning. "You'll regret this." Then, like a queen retreating from a bad review, she signals the convoy and they peel out in a dust storm of plastic cones and hurt pride. Next morning I go walk the perimeter, because that's what you do when someone treats your land like someone else's opening scene. The meadow is wet with dew, the creek still singing along the far line, and there, screwed into my post like a high school prom throne, is a little sign. "Chairwoman, reserved parking." I laugh because you can't make this stuff up, a reserved sign on land you don't own. Beyond that, the old pump house sits like a forgotten chest, but someone's put a new padlock on it. I try a key I found in a drawer that night, and the damn thing turns. The door size open, and the place smells like stale secrets. Inside, radios, caution tape, a filing cabinet full of folder after folder, county letterhead, receipts, lease agreements, the kind of paper that takes your life apart in quiet little cuts. My father had a small facilities lease once, sure, but what I'm paging through now looks different. New documents, signed by Vivian, listing facility management fees and patrol operations charged back to the community. And here's the heartless part. Build against this land, my land. Thousands. Automatic renewals. Line items with names like emergency oversight and patrol operations that look like someone turned civic service into a cash machine. At the shelf, a radio blinks, and a voice crackles. He's inside. Documenting. Get eyes on him. My stomach drops because theater just turned into surveillance. I shove papers into my jacket, close the cabinet, and walk out like I'm collecting myself, not running. From the tree-line, someone moves. Vivian, the big guy with the radio, probably watching to see if their drama is getting an audience. I lock up, head back to the cabin, and Becca is waiting with 2 mugs and something like a smile that says she's been waiting for this to land. She looks at my photos, then sharpens into resolve. "I've been doing the books," she says, like a prosecutor who happens to be your friend. Her math never added up. And that's when the fight stops being about a clipboard and starts being about money and trust. Word spreads like engine smoke. The next afternoon, half the neighborhood is gathered at the mailbox cluster. Gossip gravitates there like magnets. And I decide to show up because sometimes the best defense is walking into the room where they're talking about you. Vivian stands center stage. Derek, the radio guy, at her shoulder, The neon vests a chorus that look ridiculous in daylight. She talks safety, duty, suspicious activity. Becca stands up, calm, folder in hand, and asks about expenditures. The $6,000 in compliance gear, the ongoing fees for facilities we didn't even vote to rent. A neighbor points out line items, $400 for radios, $2,500 for compliance gear. Faces go from polite to puzzled to pissed. I hold up my phone and show the pump house photos, radios, tape, filing cabinet full of signed agreements. The murmur becomes an uproar. We've been paying her to rent his land, someone says, stung. Vivian starts to splinter under the crowd's glare. She tries the old calm-down pitch, then the misrepresented dodge, but it's too late. The word that lands like a hammer is fraud. Derek mutters he was just helping, and the crowd laughs like they finally see through a magician's left hand. Authority, I say aloud, is theater. It only works if the audience claps, and they're done applauding. 2 days later I call in Deputy Tom Anders. I'd met him when Dad was alive. He has a way of slowing things down so truths pop. I tell him volunteers are acting like cops out here. Fake badges, roadblocks, demanding ID. He drives out, real cruiser, real badge, and the contrast is delicious. He asks who issued Derek's badge. The response is a stammer. He looks at the paperwork and then at Vivian, and he uses words that make folks flinch. Impersonating law enforcement is a criminal offense, and setting up checkpoints on private property without authority is not community oversight. It's a legal problem. That's when things change from neighborhood scandal to official matter. Deputy Anders orders the fake patrol equipment off the land within 24 hours, suspends the setups, and makes it plain. One more intimidation report, and there will be charges. The amber strobes go quiet like a decommissioned carnival. Vivian's empire collapses not with a bang, but with the slow unspooling of receipts and the sheriff's calm stare. But there's a twist I didn't expect, a small human wrinkle that pulled the rug out from under the villain script. The big radio guy, Derek, used to be a volunteer firefighter and a man who actually showed up when someone needed help. He'd been coaxed into this pageant by someone who pitched it as community protection. That made the betrayal sharper for the town. He wasn't a villain. He was a man who got sloppy with his own compass because someone convinced him the ends justified the means. People like that are the worst kind of tragedy. They cost you trust, not just dollars. We take copies of the receipts and the recorded confession. Yes, there was a phone call where Vivian, in a tight voice, admits moving money and setting up patrols because nobody listened until I showed authority, down to the DA. Assistant District Attorney Susan Holloway listens, plays the tape, and her face goes into that file room focus you only see in courtrooms and hospitals. Unauthorized appropriation of funds, possible fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, she lists. That's bigger than a neighbor's spat. That's criminal territory. She wants originals, subpoenas, and witnesses. We sleep badly that night, because once the law leans in, sleep becomes a negotiation. Meanwhile, the town reacts. Becca pins our spreadsheet to the bulletin board at Thompson's Feed and Supply, the altar of small-town truth. It's color-coded and ugly in the way truth can be. Red for unauthorized expenses, green for legit, yellow for pending. Folks crowd the board like it's a sports scoreboard. Farmers, retirees, moms grabbing feed for the dog. They read the line items, and the faces around them go from bemused to furious. Vivian walks into the feed store and sees her ledger up like a wanted poster. For the first time, she looks like a woman who realized she had overplayed her part. She calls me that night. Actually calls me, which is telling. Her voice flips from wounded to raw, to bartering. Drop the photos, drop the financials, she'll step down. Save us both the shame. I press record and let her talk. She admits moving money, admits the patrols, tries to justify it with for the good of the community. In the end, she threatens with lawyers and bylaws, the last weapon of a person with too many small victories and no real defense. When she hangs up, we have what we need, a confession and a trail of receipts. The DA's office files subpoenas. The sheriff serves papers. The town holds an emergency forum at the mailbox cluster. Yes, the same place. And the vote is quick. Remove Vivian from chair pending restitution and legal review. People clap like they're releasing air from a tire that's been slowly leaking for years. It isn't joy so much as relief. You'd think a bully would go quietly. Vivian doesn't. She stages one last, small theater at night, slams neon flyers on the pump house door, and screams into the dark about me, trying to steal the community. But by then the marquee is dark, the stage empty. The neighbors come out, recorder in hand, and ask her to leave. She does. Quiet, sudden, like someone exiting stage left. In the weeks that follow, the fake radios get bagged as evidence. Amber lights return to their shelf at the surplus store, and meetings move to the Grange Hall with coffee and pie instead of flashing lights. The HOA board reconstitutes, humbler, with ledgers open and budgets transparent. People reach out, say thanks, not because I wanted applause, but because finally someone said no to being bullied with a clipboard. There's a small, satisfying scene I keep replaying. A real sheriff's cruiser parked at the mailbox cluster, Deputy Anders stepping out with a real badge and a quiet authority, and the neighbors watching him like they're watching the sunrise after a storm. The mailbox cluster isn't Vivian's throne anymore. It's just a row of boxes on a slab of concrete. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like something the community owns again. But here's the part that won't let me sleep in the same way. Bullies don't always get arrested. Sometimes they get to move on and start again somewhere else. Vivian left town, sure, but did she learn? Maybe, maybe not. And Derek, he's in the middle of his own reconciliation with himself and the neighbors he embarrassed. The law did its job, the town did its job, and the land, my land, is mine again. But the real victory wasn't legal paperwork or a badge in an evidence bag. The real victory was neighbors deciding they wouldn't let a person play authority anymore. That transparency mattered more than the fear of rocking the boat. My uncle once wrote me a note. Authority is just theater, son. Don't let them write your lines. I kept that note in my wallet. I guess I finally learned how to rip up the script and write my own. So what do you think? Was it justice? Or just a loud community telling one woman she'd crossed a line? Drop a comment. Tell me if you'd have acted different, if you think Vivian deserved what she got, or if you worry about the next person who comes with a clipboard and a smile. Did we do right by the law, or did we let a mob take over? I want to hear your take. Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? And what would you do if someone set up a little police force on your land?